Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. For anyone that's new here, my name's OwenAlec, and on this channel I do everything drum related. That includes drum covers, tutorials, gear reviews, plus tips and advice, just like this one. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please do consider subscribing, hit the like button, all that good stuff, because it really does help the channel. Thank you very much. So today in this video, we're going to be going right back to basics, and we're going to be breaking down the names of the different parts of a drum kit. Now, I'm sure that there's a few of these things that you'll have heard before. However, I can guarantee that there will be at least one or two things that you haven't heard before, so please stick around to the end of the video because you will definitely learn something. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the kick drum. Now, typically this does come in a 20 or a 22 inch diameter. That's not always the case. You can get something that's like a maybe 18 or anything up to like a 28. Absolutely massive cannon of a kick drum. The typical depth that you might find on a kick drum can vary quite wildly. Anything from maybe like a 16 all the way up to a 24. If you want to go with something custom, if you can find a drum builder to do it, you can literally go 30, 40 if you really wanted to. Although that would look kind of weird and also not fit in many venues. But just for your reference, the kick drum that I have here is a 22 by 18. Next, we're going to look at the toms, also known as tom-toms or rack toms if they're on the top here, and then floor tom on the right hand side here. Again, these can vary quite wildly, anything from maybe like a 6-inch little diddy tom all the way up to like a 32-inch gong drum or something ridiculous. A lot of the time when it comes to the extreme side of things, it's kind of like your imagination is the limit really. But in terms of the basic tom sizes, they come in three main configurations: standard, fusion, and rock. The standard is basically what I have here, which is 10, 12, 16. The fusion is 10, 12, 14, and rock is 12, 13, 16. As for the depth of the toms, you'll be looking in the region of the 10 by 8, a 12 by 9, and a 16 by either 14 or 16. That being said, when you get your own drum kit, you can change and mix and match all the different sizes that you want. Next we have the snare drum, and this too can vary quite wildly. I would say a standard would be looking at maybe 14-inch diameter by about 5.5 to 6 in the depth. The typical makeup of a drum starts with the most important part, which is the shell, typically made out of wood, but can also be used out of metals or acrylics. Next we have the drum head that sits on top of the shell, which is the bit that you strike, which is held in place by the hoop, which is held in place by the tension rods, which is held in place by the lugs. So as you can tell, there are a lot of different components at play here. All interact with each other, and when assembled correctly and tuned correctly, you can get the most amazing drum sound. Next, we're going to take a look at cymbals. Now again, I'm just going to let you guys know about the standard sizes, and then you've got a bit more of a basis to work with, but don't forget, things can really very wildly change when it comes to cymbals. So first off, we have the hi-hats. Now these come as a pair, typically the same size, but the bottom one will be upside down, the top one will be the right way up, and then when put together, they create a wide variety of sounds, typically either used fully closed, so they get a very short sustain, very what's called staccato, or you can have the foot off the pedal, they open up a little bit, and then they create a very loud and brash and very washy kind of sound. Hi-hats typically come in a 14-inch diameter, which is what I've got here. However, I have used anything from 12s to 13s and even 15s, and you get such a wide variety of sounds, it's incredible. However, for the purposes that I've been doing recently, 14s sound absolutely amazing. 15s do sound a lot chunkier, a lot deeper, so you can kind of have a darker sound, whereas the smaller that you go, you'll tend to get a much lighter and higher kind of pitch sound. Next, let's move on to crashes. Now, again, typically on the left-hand side, you would have maybe like a 16, whereas on the right, you'd have something like an 18. In my opinion, one of the best reasons to have crashes that are two different sizes is that there's a really pleasant interval between the pitches. They sound close enough that they'll still fit in with the music, but there's still enough variation that they don't sound exactly the same. However, of course, crashes can come in all different shapes and sizes, and I've got two 19-inch crashes here, but because they are two different ranges from the same company, two different ranges, they have two very different sounds. This is a much more trashier kind of sound, whereas this is a much brighter and cleaner sound. So with that in mind, you don't have to have cymbals that are two different sizes, you can just have two from different lines. Again, they fit so well together, but they are different cymbals, so they give different sounds. This video is sponsored by Lalo.ai. If you're looking to split the stems on your favourite song for whatever kind of project, then this is the site for you. For years and years, whenever I used online software to take the drums out of a song so I could do a drum cover to it, it sounded horrible. Like it was underwater, loads of artifacting, it was not pleasant at all. But then a few months back, I discovered Lalo.ai and I was blown away by just how good their algorithm is. And the fact is, you guys have been listening to it for the past few months. Every time I've done a drum cover, it's been using Lalo.ai's technology to get rid of the drums and put mine in place of it. So you can take a song that sounds like this and make it sound like this. And not sound like this. There's an affiliate link in the description below if you want to go and check them out and get some more information. Also, it does help out the channel, so thank you very much for that. Anyway, let's get into the video. Next we have the ride cymbal. Now, ride cymbals typically come in a 20-inch, however 21s are getting very, very popular, and it just so happens the one I have here is a 21. Rides can be a very versatile cymbal. Some people like to use it to wash with it like they would a crash. However, personally, I more like to use these for that kind of really glassy ping that you get from the bow. I can't really say that I've heard of many rides that are anything less than 20. However, I have seen some rides that are in the 30s, 30-inch. These things are absolutely massive, but they still sound amazing. Of course, it entirely depends on what you're using it for. So if you think that using a 30-inch ride cymbal is right for you, go for it. Next, we're going to move on to China cymbals, and these get their name because they have a very oriental kind of sound and a very Eastern kind of vibe. And what's great about these is that they can offer a really different and sometimes darker vibe to a piece of music. Chinas are another one that have a very wide variety of sizes. They can come in anywhere from like a 10-inch or something all the way up to maybe like a 26 or 28 or something. It really does depend on the music and your imagination. And then we're going to move on to effect cymbals. Now, Chinas can sometimes be classed as effect cymbals, but for me, I just kind of class them as part of the standard kit. I would say the most popular effect cymbal right now is the stack, because there are so many options that you can do with this and so many sounds that you can create. For me right now, I have 3 different stacks on this kit. First off, I've got the 10-inch, I've got the 12-inch, and I've got this hybrid here that is a 15-inch China with a 16-inch crash on top of it, upside down. This stack I've had since I first joined Amedia, and it just still sounds to this day absolutely incredible. In fact, the China that's underneath is beat to all hell at the moment, and it's cracked, it's got bits missing, but it seems to be the more I use it, the more it gets beat up, the better it sounds. Then of course you've got things like splashes. Again, they can come in a wide variety of sizes, but anything from about 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Anything after about 14, I would say it starts turning into a crash. The typical makeup of a cymbal has 3 components. First off, you have the edge, then you have the bow, and then you have the bell. All 3 of these project different sounds from the cymbal, so any cymbal, that is, can be very versatile. It's all about how you intend to use it. And lastly, we're going to move on to hardware. Now, hardware can be a little bit of a difficult one because there's so many different things going on. However, I am just going to tell you about more of the standard stuff that you might find on a general drum kit. First off, we have the clutch. This is one of the more important ones because the meat and potatoes of a drum kit is kick, snare, and hats. And you want to be able to operate the hi-hat, and the clutch is what allows you to do that. Okay, so I've just taken off the clutch here so you can show you what I'm talking about. We've got some locking nuts on the bottom here, so we're going to take those off. Then we're going to take one of the felts off, place the top of the clutch through the hole of the hi-hat. So it's now upside down, but this is still going to be the top because we're going to flip it the right way around. Place the felt back on there, and then put these locking nuts back on. Then we just make sure that is nice and tight on there so it's not going anywhere, and then we can feed that back onto the hi-hat. And I like to have about a finger's width between the top and bottom hat, and then we're just going to nip that up so it's nice and secure. And then we've got the hi-hat all nice and sorted. Next we have the kick pedals, and these can come either in a single or a double. I am using a double because I play a lot of double bass. However, on a typical kit you might just find a single pedal. This can be broken down into 3 main components. You've got the footboard, the drive shaft, and the beaters, also known as hammers. Next we have cymbal stands, which, as the name suggests, hold the cymbals in place. But there's a little bit more to it than that. First we have a plastic protector, which is known as a hat or a sleeve. Then we have the cymbal felt. And then lastly, we have the wing nut. All of these different components help stop keyholing, which is when the center of your cymbal starts grinding away on the other bits of metal, which we really don't like metal touching metal on a drum kit. It's not a good thing at all. Or having the cymbal just completely fly off the stand and hit the bass player in the face. As funny as that would be, it's not good. But we can also use this setup in a very musical way. For example, if you have a cymbal that you really want to be open and to not be choked off in any way, shape or form, you don't have to put them on very tight. You don't really have to put them on at all if you don't want to. But if you have a cymbal that you want to deaden a little bit, make sure it's not getting in the way. You want it to have a much shorter sustain. One of the things that you can do is really clamp down with cymbal felts, and it will slightly choke the cymbal. That being said, if you just have a crash cymbal that's moving about a lot and you don't want it to be flapping about like this quite as much, you can clamp down on it a little bit extra, a little bit more, and now that's not moving anywhere near as much as it was before. And then of course we have the remaining stuff like the snare stand and the hi-hat stand, and well, they're pretty self-explanatory. But that's just going to about do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you guys have got something out of it. Let me know if there's anything in this video that you didn't know before that you do now. I'd be so grateful if on your way out you could just hit the like and subscribe button. It really does help out the channel. Thank you once again, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now.